Revenge films.
I got married in my 20s and got divorced after 2 years. When we were still dating, my boyfriend was really nice to me. But after we got married, he stopped being considerate altogether. He would abuse me emotionally and made me feel bad about myself. My ex-husband would only drink bottled water, so he would get upset with me if we were out of stock. One time, I was trying to make some tea and there was no bottled water. So I used tap water to make tea.
Are you trying to kill me by making me drink dirty water? How could you do this?
He yelled at me and pulled on my hair hard. Whenever I greeted him when he came back home from work, he would ignore me. I would try my best to start a conversation with him, but he would say,
"You're so boring. I don't want to listen to you talk about nonsense."
And then he would always glare at me. He had bullied me so much that I began to think that it was all my fault. I tried to keep quiet and not upset my husband too much. But then, I was diagnosed with an intractable disease, and I had to be hospitalized. When I told my husband this, instead of worrying about me, he said,
"How could you do this to me? Who's going to take care of me now? You're so selfish!"
This was the first time I told my husband that I wasn't feeling well, and I thought that he would show me some compassion, but I was wrong. I realized then that he didn't love me at all. He said that it was my fault that I was sick, and he refused to pay any of my medical fees. I had a full-time job, so I was able to pay for my medical fees on my own. But in the end, because of my condition, I had to quit my job and I asked my husband for some help in covering our living expenses.
I'm not going to do that. Being sick is your problem. You still need to pay the living expenses.
If my husband wasn't going to help me out, when I really needed this help, it wasn't worth being married to him. I couldn't believe that he showed no concern for me when I got sick. I had to get myself to the hospital and pay for all my medical fees. On top of that, my husband expected me to pay our living expenses. I was in the hospital, and I wasn't even living at home then. I stayed in the hospital for 1 month. After I was discharged, I was ready to divorce my husband. Things moved fast from that point on. I hired a private investigator and asked them to investigate my husband's affair. I had suspected that my husband had been cheating on me during our marriage. I realized this around the same time that I was diagnosed with my intractable disease. But I was too sick to do anything about it then, so I waited until I got out of the hospital. While I was in the hospital, I worried about my condition and wondered if I would ever get better. After I was discharged from the hospital, I focused on getting evidence of my husband's infidelity. With the help of my private investigator, I was able to prove that my husband had in fact been cheating on me. I wanted to punish my husband for using the evidence that I had, but hesitated to do so. I wasn't sure if punishing him was going to make me feel any better. I decided that instead of getting revenge, I would simply divorce him on my terms. My husband wasn't well off, so I didn't even bother asking him to pay me alimony. When I suggested that we get a divorce, my husband was happy and obliged. He was thrilled to divorce me, and even more thrilled that he didn't need to pay me any alimony. I was planning on getting a new job after my divorce, but I was lucky, and my former manager asked me to come back to work for him again.
"I'd love for you to come back to our office."
I was happy to be able to work with my old colleagues again. My colleagues were sympathetic to me about my divorce and my illness.
You made the right choice in leaving your husband. I can't believe that your ex-husband abused you emotionally and also cheated on you.
There was one thing I was keeping to myself about my divorce. My husband and I were going to have a baby together, but things were not going as we hoped. The doctor told me that if we were unable to conceive naturally, even after a year of trying, we might want to start fertility treatments. I got checked to see if there were any issues with my fertility, and it turned out that it wasn't there. I assumed that it was my ex-husband with fertility issues, and it didn't matter. We weren't together anymore. I never told my husband about this, so he blamed me for the fact that we weren't able to get pregnant, and so did his parents. I told my close friends that the reason for our divorce was due to the fact that my husband had cheated on me. He had an affair. But to be honest, I was happy to be divorced from my husband, who was probably infertile. I really wanted children, so I wanted to find a new partner that would allow me to be pregnant. My ex-husband was superficial and was nice to those that he didn't know well, but to me, his wife, he showed his dark side. He was also popular among women, so I assumed he'd get remarried right away. I knew that even if he got remarried, though, it'd be difficult for him to have any kids. I kept this to myself, and it made me feel a little better with my ex-husband, and his parents would later find out that I was unable to get pregnant because of him, and not me. I didn't want to reveal this to them soon, out of fear that they may have stopped me from getting divorced. I also knew that if people found out that my ex-husband was infertile, it would make it difficult for him to get remarried. I was happy to get divorced with my husband without getting revenge because I knew that he would suffer in the end anyway. The fact that I was the only one that suspected my ex-husband's infertility was enough revenge for me. I eventually met someone and got married to the person after 2 years. And to my pleasant surprise, we were able to get pregnant right away. My husband and I were excited to find out that we were having twins. In my first marriage, I had so much trouble getting pregnant with him, but my second husband, it happened naturally and quickly. I was thrilled to be welcoming 2 newborns at the same time. My second husband comes from a good family, and he also runs a successful business. His parents were kind enough to offer to help raise my twins because it was a lot of work to try to do that all on my own. It made me happier now, and also in terms of money, we were well off. When my second husband first introduced me to his parents, I was honest to them about the fact that I was divorced.
It must have been so tough for you to overcome your illness all by yourself. You're very brave. You have us now, so you can rely on us anytime.
My mother-in-law shed tears for me when she found out how uncooperative and selfish my first husband was. I cried too because I wished that I met my second husband and his family sooner. They would have been so supportive through my battles with my illness. My second husband and his parents take really good care of me, and I'm so grateful for them for that.
I think you should hire a housekeeper to keep you around the house. You're so busy taking care of twins.
My mother-in-law went out of her way to hire a housekeeper for us. My husband was also very cooperative and would help me take care of our babies when he came home from work. One day, I was on my way to the department store with my 2 babies when I happened to run into my ex-husband and his mother.
Whose babies are they? Are you babysitting for someone?
They're both my babies.
But you're not able to get pregnant. Did you adopt them then?
Actually, I got a fertility test, and there was nothing wrong with my fertility.
I didn't know that you were even remarried! I'm shocked that someone wanted to marry a divorcee like you!
Well, I was lucky enough to find someone that did, and I'm very happy with him. In fact, that's our apartment right there. My ex-husband and his mother were shocked to see how nice the apartment was. Because of my second husband's success, we lived in a beautiful place.
How is that possible? The place looks really expensive!
My husband is a successful businessman. I heard that you were married as well. How's that going? No kids yet? My ex-husband seemed uncomfortable at the mention of kids. I guess I wasn't the one with fertility issues after all.
You knew? And you never thought to tell me?
That's right. I didn't want to do you any favors after the way you treated me. Besides, you always told me how boring I was and that you didn't have time to listen to me. I didn't want to bore you with my stupid stories.
But this isn't one of your stupid stories! You should have told me!
Oh well, there isn't anything I could do about it now, is there? I'm very happy right now. I hope that you are too. My ex-husband and his mother could say nothing to that, and they just stood there stunned.
I can't believe that you get to be happy, and I'm struggling to have kids with my new wife!
I heard later on that my ex-husband got divorced from his second wife, as well due to the fact that they were unable to conceive. His mother was devastated because she always dreamed of becoming a grandmother, but now those dreams are crushed. My ex-husband isn't getting any younger, and now that the people around him know that he's infertile, women won't be lining up to marry him. I was happy that my ex-husband was getting what he deserved in the end. He should have never abused me the way that he did during our marriage. I'm going to forget about him and focus on becoming happy with my current family, the people that mean the most to me.
How was today's video? If you enjoyed it, please subscribe, like, and leave a comment. Stay tuned for more.